Good evening, I am Manon Keir and I am the Programme Officer for Great Place Lakes and Dales. Welcome to our second GPLD film night called Meet the Makers. And it's the final show in our GPLD live series, which has taken place over yesterday and today. So we've had a fantastic discussion throughout both days with talented and passionate people from across the Lakes and Dales and beyond during the series so far. And I just know that tonight will just be just as enthralling. Over the next hour and a half, we're going to watch a collection of films which have all been made by some of the area's most talented young filmmakers and chat with them about making films and their interests more widely. So now it's time for us to grab our complimentary cakes, although you might be like me and you've already eaten it yesterday, and sit back and enjoy our first film. So the first one we've got for you tonight is Create Your Future. Create Your Future is an online toolkit which GPLD created, which provides information and guides to help students, teachers and career advisors discover some of the hidden careers in the Lakes and Dales. The toolkit includes a series of short films featuring some of the area's young entrepreneurs, and this film brings them all together.
My name is Anna and my job title is officially Co-Creative Director of Bloomley's Dance Company.
My name is Emily Knight and I am a jeweller and also own Studio Vault.
Hello, my name is Chloe Hampson-Ward and I'm the founder of Comms Kick, which is a PR and marketing agency.
Hi, my name's Annette Ritson and I'm the Managing Director of Net Development Limited.
Hello, my name is Matthew Wood and I am a co-founder of Film on the Brain.
My name's Giuseppe and I'm a co-founder of Film on the Brain.
Myself and Natalie run a physical theatre company called the Knotted Project. We make brand new physical theatre from scratch, so all original ideas and writing, and we tour them around the country.
I'm Ian Reid. So my job is Head of Participation and Learning for Lakeland Arts. I guess what that means is trying to engage people into the organisation, to engage people with culture, with the heritage of their area, and also with visitors who come to the area to see a bit more about what we have here in South Lakeland with the Lake District and also Kendal.
So I'm Rachel Thornton and I'm an artist and I work from Studio 42 in Bentham. When I was growing up I wanted to do something creative, definitely, and then kind of as I got into more high school it's like that wasn't an option anymore. So then I started to think, I'll be an art therapist. I thought that I would do art therapy because being an artist wasn't an option, but now I'm an artist, so it is an option.
Film on the Brain is predominantly a production company that me and my friend set up. It's something that we've been wanting to do for a long time. We knew each other all the way back in college, and now it is a professional business that is well established and well on its way to growing even more.
We are a web development and marketing company and we have a full range of creative services from branding, graphic design, web development, system development, marketing, print and digital media.
Bloomley's Dance Company is a community programme, an education programme and a youth dance programme. It basically is all about empowering people to discover their potential, to develop creativity, be confident and celebrate themselves and where they live.
I work on businesses' social media content, helping get them press coverage, on creating marketing materials, writing blog posts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I used to be a teacher and I kind of moved into the museum art gallery sector just so that I could have the freedom to think more creatively. My work increasingly is more about project management, so it's working creatively with different organisations that might be film directors or dancers or artists on creating different ways in which we can connect with people.
4 years ago, I decided to take on a creative business that showcases over 40 makers, and now I showcase jewellery, ceramics, textiles, leatherwork, paintings, printmaking. I am from here and I went to school here. I studied at the Glasgow School of Art, and after finishing there I was working for another jewellery company designing. I realised while I was doing that I didn't want to work for somebody else. I just wanted to work for myself.
The work that we make is often very visual and engaging, and our ambition is always to try and start a conversation with an audience. So we started the company 7 years ago. We didn't go straight into full-time on the business. We had other jobs that supported us, and what we did was every time we felt like we were presented with an opportunity, we've taken those opportunities, and slowly and steadily they became more regular and bigger scale.
We just want to see people be superhumans, to be the best version of themselves. So that's what gets me out of bed every day. Each day I get to wake up and know that I'm going to do something creative in my day. Creativity, I just think is really good for me. I always kind of, if I'm stressed about something, if I just kind of sit down and even just with my sketchbook I think about what ideas, it takes me to a different place and it's an escape. I can walk my dog right out the door and be by the river and have that space and that freedom. I love living in the Yorkshire Dales. I've been in the city, I've done city life, but it wasn't for me. This is home. I'm a farmer through and through, deep down. I absolutely believe that you can make it work in a rural environment. You've just got to be committed to work hard, put the miles in to meet people and develop connections and partnerships. I love to be here so that actually I can run the creative business and do all those things, but also I'm close to family and I'm still connected to that farming and rural community.
So I love living in this area. When I finished school and I went to university, I ventured as far as Lancaster so that I could still enjoy coming home at weekends, mostly because I have horses and dogs and this area allows me to enjoy having them.
I think it's really important that if people have got an idea for a business, that they try and make it work here if they're already here, or if they're looking for somewhere to relocate, they should absolutely come and have a look round.
It's just good to have more art around because art makes you feel good. It reflects the area often, showing its beauty in a different way, which is good for tourism coming in, for local businesses like cafes and stuff. If they're coming around to do a trail and they want to see all the artwork but then go and eat some food, it just makes an area more interesting as well, I think, having more artists in it. There's a lot of people that come and visit it and you can see why, because it's just beautiful.
The reason we decided to set up our business in Kendal was because we felt that we would be a bigger fish in a smaller pond rather than join a really overpopulated area like London where everyone's kind of in competition. Moving to an area like this would give us space and time to work out how we want to do things instead of kind of playing catch up with everybody. The opportunity is here locally for a young person to have a creative career and future, but I think that the opportunities aren't as in your face as they may be in a city. So I think it's more about the individual qualities that you need.
I think this area gives people a great opportunity to grow and develop. There are more and more opportunities arising all the time. It's more a case of actually making people aware that those opportunities exist, I think.
I don't see why you need to live in a city these days to create effective campaigns. We've got loads of fantastic photographers, filmmakers, illustrators in the area. People are really, really dedicated around here, so there's absolutely the resources to create effective and exciting campaigns without having to go into cities. Living in areas like this one definitely gives you a chance to grow your career. There's actually a massive freelancer network in the area. The majority of my clients have been other rural businesses, many are family run. You just have to be a bit more adaptable and a bit more tenacious in terms of going out there and showing people what you do.
What's it like running a business? It's terrifying. It's also really exciting. Running a business is constantly learning. I think it's important to keep in mind that it's always going to be scary because it's a big step. And any new change in your life is scary, but then if it's not scary, it's not worth doing.
We really strongly believe in a business model that has a lot of strings to its bow. So we have, for example, it's not just filmmaking, we have photography and we also rent out equipment. But in the filmmaking itself, we have things like nightclubs, we have education, big corporate companies, we have smaller individuals that want to sort of grow their own business, we help promote them. So with all of those coming together, it produces a really sustainable business model.
I think what's difficult is that you kind of get into this rhythm as an artist that sometimes you're living week by week. And the real turning point for us was when we started securing more funding through Arts Council England and different partnerships that enabled us to plan further ahead.
So much shopping is done online nowadays. People want that one-to-one interaction. So this space allows you to engage the customer with each item that they're interested in and giving them that one-to-one shopping experience.
I have different streams of income. I do shows. I go to a trade show once a year at Harrogate at the British Craft Trade Fair. So that's my exposure to shops and galleries, and they place orders with me and then come back and produce that work. I'm just in the process now of setting up selling from my website, because from doing shows people say, oh, how can I buy your work? I'd like to have there to be more of my age represented in the arts in the area. It'd be good if there was more young artists producing work here, and work that's really different and challenges things.
So there are different trusts and foundations which you can apply for money to do significant projects. In the past we've had money from the now called National Heritage Lottery Fund, but we get money from places like the Claw Foundation, we get money from Esme Fairbairn, so there's a variety of different organisations that fund, I suppose, cultural organisations to do more. Essential to an organisation like this, where we have 4 different sites, is a shared aim and objective, and clarifying what that is for everyone who works from the front desk, to people who work on the boats, to people who work right up to the chief executives, to having a bit of a shared vision.
We connected with UCLAN in Preston. They support us as a business. For all our community work in general, we will apply for funding. There might also be participants that will pay to come along to weekly classes or one-off workshops. And then our education side of things, we will sell educational resources to schools, education providers, and then they will also buy us in to deliver, whether that be like a day of dance or week after week schemes of work and such like. So we have lots of different income streams to make it happen.
I, quite early on in business, decided to do a lot of workshops which would then engage the community in a different way. That increased sales hugely. It's quite a nice process to then know that that then leads to them being even more passionate about buying art. You don't have to make loads of money to be really successful. It's a quality of life that you want and you've chosen, but also to be able to give somebody else a quality of life too.
So when I first set up the business, it was just myself. I operated as a sole trader for about 3 months and then decided to become a limited company. And that was a huge leap, because at that point you become responsible for wages, company VAT returns, all kinds of serious stuff. But it was a decision that I made, and I'm glad I did. We've grown to a team of 7 now, and although it's a huge responsibility, it's also a pleasure to work with a fabulous team.
I think the creative industries are hugely important. Creative businesses happening everywhere is a great thing. I think it brings life and vibrancy and energy to any place, and I think if we can encourage young people in this area to go do that, to go live their dreams, to go do their dream job, it just fills this place with passion and energy and makes it a place that people want to live.
So the technical industry that we're working in is developing so fast that it's changing every day. We're working on not only websites, but we're working on apps, on APIs, we're working on systems that are being used by companies all over the world. So really, you can be working at the forefront of these technologies. Even though we're not in a city, you can be doing that from this beautiful area we live in.
Success to me is very simple. It's just about being content and just being good where you are. And I really believe that this business is a big part of that, creating a life where you are content. And I believe everyone deserves that.
Somebody usually beats me when I open up. I'm straight into serving a customer. When I do get quiet moments, I'm in the back making and planning next events and things.
It's really hard to describe what my best day would look like, but I think it's when we have clients come in for meetings and we start brainstorming and we come up with really exciting ideas that we then get to implement for them.
So a typical day for me is quite hard to pin down because there's so much variety in what we do. For instance, a lot of the time we'll be out on a shoot, so we'll be filming in the Lake District or in Manchester, or the other day we had a shoot in Bolton. Or we could be here in the office editing some films, doing some admin work.
My best day is when I know the events are going to happen and I've done all the preparation beforehand. The events are with other makers that I've showcased the work of for quite some time, and it's always quite nice to have another maker that you've worked with for quite some time in the space and being able to give them sort of an event which encourages their sales.
Best day is, I would say, is definitely seeing one of our venues very active, so seeing it very full of people engaging and enjoying what they're doing, but also workshopping an idea and coming up with a solution to that in a creative way.
My ambitions for Comms Kick are that people don't just look to the cities when they want a good quality, exciting, engaging marketing and PR campaign.
You know, creativity is a really interesting way of engaging people, but also enabling people to connect, to be listened to be appreciated, and you know, the ways in which we do that allow that to happen. And if creativity takes you to a different place in the country or a different place in the world, fine, go and get that training. But do come back and share with people what you've learned in your creativity.
Yeah, success to me is providing opportunities and supporting myself and being happy.
So many great quotes in there, like so much inspiration that comes from that, and it just kind of lifts you up and think, yeah, I should probably do something and start my own business, maybe one day. But as you saw there, that film was made by Film on the Brain, who also featured. And now joining me is Giuseppe Ava from Film on the Brain and Matt Wood. How are you tonight?
Hi there.
Good, thanks. Hey.
How are you doing? So for me, like watching that and having worked with you guys on quite a few projects over the last 3 years, it's really fascinating to kind of meet, like I know the type of thing that we've worked with you on, but it's really fascinating to think about the other types of projects that you work on. And I noticed in there that everybody else, their question was about what's your best day, and yours was more like, what's your standard day like? But if I did ask you, what would your best day be? Like what's the most like fun things, enjoyable things that you do? I can't imagine it's admin.
No, probably not admin. That's probably the least. But
yeah,
it's hard to
spend a lot of time doing admin, but it's definitely not the favorite. I think
it's hard to kind of pick one because there's in this line of work there's a lot of variety. So there's it's incredibly different. We were on a fell the other day shooting a music video with a lady with a cello, and then the next week you'd be in a sort of a corporate meeting. It's completely different, and or you might be in front of a computer for 12 hours editing. It's very different, but I kind of love it all. What do you think, Giuseppe?
I mean, for me filming is definitely the best part. When I'm behind a camera doing something interesting and creative, that's the best. So yeah, like Matthew said, we've done music videos, we do a lot of corporate things, but at the same time, there's still creativity in that. I mean, we've been in caves, on top of mountains, in factories, in schools, in like a really, really wide variety of strange places. I was thinking the other day about how many different people we've spoken to over the years, and like how many different kind of walks of life we've kind of brushed up against, but not really had any other, interaction with. We sort of, I think it's quite a nice thing that I guess that's one of my favorite things is being able to kind of have little bits of kind of experience, little bits of different industries and different
that's very true.
Professions, because there's just so many. I mean, I can't even kind of off the top of my head, we've worked with, teachers, we've worked with models, we've worked with.
There was someone that did like this unique way of making paper. That was really interesting. And I just talked to her for 5 minutes so I couldn't help myself.
Yeah. Exactly.
You could just see from from the variety of different businesses and people that you were including in that one film. It's like, it's just such a variety. And it shows like, so how does it work with you guys usually? Do each of you do a bit of everything, or do you each specialize in certain things, or how do you kind of split up the work between you?
Yeah, it's very like we very much do everything. It's kind of one-man bands, more like two-man band. We do everything together, but it's editing we both do filming, but one of the reasons why it works so well is because we do work very well together. We kind of like lightning in a bottle, filming, editing. We kind of know each other's brains and know what to do in a moment, which makes it incredibly efficient on a shoot. You know, one of the most challenging things in the creative sector is finding people that you can do stuff with. So that's very useful. So yeah, in answer to your question, everything really.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things that I think we both, you know, we'll excel in individually. And, you know, Matthew is, you know, for instance, a lot better at, I don't know, you're better at, you know, compositing and kind of, you know, sort of the more technical VFX side of editing, whereas, you know, I might be, you know, better at something else. But I think we're very good at playing to our strengths and bouncing off one another, and I think that really comes in handy, in what we do. And yeah, I mean, and you know, and then if we need anything else, that, because I think what our skills sort of are quite, we both got into filmmaking in quite a similar way. So we both sort of built up kind of quite a few skills, but at the same time, in the wider world of filmmaking, quite a few specific skills.
Yeah,
so
I was going to ask, because you met at college, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Known each other a while, and
yeah, I mean, what now, 7 years or something like that? I think we've known each other
8 years.
8 years, there you go. So quite a while. Yeah. So we both sort of got into filmmaking in quite a similar way. So in terms of our skill set, we've sort of got quite similar skills. But then, you know, we also work with a lot of artists, you know, because obviously we're, you know, that's not saying jack of all trades, master of none. You know, you can't be good at everything. So for more specific things that, you know, we're not very good at, we don't have experience in, you know, we'll hire in other freelancers in different sectors, because obviously they're a lot better at something like, I don't know, graphic design or sound than we are. So which is really fun, because, you know, at the same time, you know, we get to work quite directly with other creatives, which is really nice.
I've got so many questions for you, but I'm just aware we've got lots of films to get through tonight, and we are going to chat later. So we're going to be chatting to both of you and everybody else at the Q&A session at the end of the show. So we will be answering everybody else's questions as well. So yeah, we will catch up more with you later on, but thank you for telling us a bit about your background and how you go about your filmmaking. Thank you very much.
No problem.
So next, we're going to watch Youth of the Rural North by Juliet Klottrup, which is, I think, really kind of captures the essence of the Lakes and Dales and the young people that live here. But you can see that for yourself.
Just going to unsnack the door. Okay. Yeah. Snacked. Snacked. William Dawson, 22, Clapham, above the village of Clapham. Do you want me to be any more precise? Yeah, well, Bleak Bank is about a 300-acre hill farm, which the Dawsons have been here since, well, about 100 years exactly now. They came just after the First World War. We keep dairy cows, milk about 80, and lamb about 500 sheep. So it's quite small, quite traditional. Just a little hill farm really in Yorkshire.
So the year is sort of split between the summer and the winter. And in the winter things are much more structured, much more routine. The milking frames the day. You have milking at the start of the day, the milking machine going on about 6 o'clock. And then you finish with the milking because then it's gone dark by the time you've done that again at 6 o'clock in the evening. And through the day you're mostly doing feeding livestock, the sheep, the cattle, mucking things out. So it's very regimented really, and there's not a lot of time for anything else because the daylight's not there. But in the summer things go much freer. You still have your milking as your first job. Summer's it's a much more relaxed atmosphere because of the daylight thing. I mean, you might do your milking in the afternoon in summer, but then after that you might go and wall a gap because it's a fine night. Yeah, well, January and February are sort of your typical winter sheep feeding, cow feeding, cleaning out, and then you come through into the spring, into March, April, lambing time. Things are chaotic, hectic, death and disaster all around, but it's great. And then when you look up from all of that, it's May, June, it's early summer, the lambs are growing, cattle are going out, you're starting silaging, walling because it's a nice night. And then you come into the proper summer, July, August, you're clipping, you're gathering, dipping the sheep, all your hay timing. And then it comes through to the back end, what's known as the back end, the autumn, September, October. Those are your sheep sales. That's sort of the completion of the sheep farmer's year. And then you come back to winter and your cow's coming in November and things just revert to that sort of routine again. I'm aware that you shouldn't take it for granted where you live, especially when you live somewhere like here. I just like the freedom of it really, like wandering up onto a fell or something, or going walling somewhere, that you don't have to be cooped up sort of. Because I mean, even if you go out, you're still under a roof space often somewhere, aren't you? I'm not that keen on that. I actually do know some people in London. Like, David was there for a week, my Uncle David, and he said he never put his foot on grass the whole week. I find that really upsetting. Very lucky really to live up here.
I'm called James, I'm 15, and I live in Everkellet in North Lancashire, next to Cumbria. I'm slightly pessimistic because of global warming, but apart from that I'm alright, yeah. It's a bit scary in a way, you get a bit more responsibility, but I'm going to school next year. I mean, if I was going to college, I think I'd be a lot more responsible for myself because I've got not as much team in place to look after me, but I think that by some people you're more respected, by other people you're more looked down upon as a vandal. I think my village is the only place in the world you can get it done for loitering in a park. Well, Devil's Bridge, so there's a bridge, and in the 1300s, 1400s people used to jump off it to propose to their wives and stuff. They used to tombstone off it, but you try it now you'll die because the floods have filled in the gap, you see. But there's a rock underneath that everyone calls Crotter Rock, and kids jump off there nearly every day in summer, so we just jump off there and go for a swim about, race down the river, and try and find another nice place to go because it gets busy. But yeah, it's quite fun. After school you go in your boxes, that's always funny.
When I had my GCSEs it was really sunny, and I had people in my year going into the river half an hour before exams and things like that. It was quite...
Sure. Just trunks, yeah. Just swimming trunks.
Maybe nothing sometimes.
Hello, my name's Sam. I'm 16. I live in Kirby Longsdale in Cumbria.
Hi, I'm Ollie. I'm 15. Live in West House near Kirby.
Hi, I'm Alfie Bradshaw, 16, and I live in Kirby Longsdale. So I'm in sixth form and just done my GCSEs while having a part-time job. I found it pretty easy. Didn't really revise. Good crack. Like going out, having fun. I pot wash at Linsdale Arms. It's a good place to work. Quite enjoy it. I beat grouse, beat pheasants, partridge, the lot. Like being around here, you just say hi to random people. Like just being friendly as well. Yeah, it's a small community, so you know if you go out for about 5 minutes, just walk into the shop, you'd always see 2-3 people. Just depends how many people are out really. Like a 5-minute walk takes you about 20 through Kirby, just through talking to everyone and things like that.
You can go out without having any danger of your parents are chill about you going out. There's none you can't just go out without an adult.
There's no violence. There's no violence.
We literally stay out till 10 every night, and it's we've done that since we I don't even know 10. Until I can remember.
Yeah, just free really, just not no one really judging you or anything, and you could mainly do anything, you go anywhere. And
I'm feeling comfortable to be able to walk around whenever you want, not feeling anything could happen to you, because something if something does happen to you, then it's got to be something really wrong to happen, if you get me.
I work at Inglebrook Cave as a tour guide. Yeah, not expected.
That golden bit of information.
Come to Inglebrook Cave, I am qualified. It's all good. So as a tour guide, so I take people around, talking to them about the history and geology of the cave. So it's just kind of down there, Clapham Caves. And at Christmas I dress up as an elf, and Father Christmas is there, and I do a Christmas grotto. And you did it as well last year, so don't be shaming me. It's the best Christmas paint job you can get, so it's worth doing.
It's something you don't think about as being strange. when I started driving, it was like sort of knowing the roads here and knowing like which corners you needed to slow down on because of
I don't slow down in any of the corners.
No, but like knowing that that's where the patches of sheep sleep at night, so you need to watch out.
Oh yeah, you
the
need to
corner,
watch.
where
Yeah,
they're
sheep
on the
come
roads.
onto the road, so you've got to
So
be
it's just
careful.
like it's something I was like, hang on, that's quite a countryside thing to have to remember where to slow down because
Hey
of
up.
the sheep.
Get rid of those. I can't do a Yorkshire accent. Like, I mean,
from Yorkshire.
Well, kind of.
Yeah, I had space in my mum and dad's house to write lots of music and make art. I bought a potter's wheel from a grammar school in Liverpool that was closing down, and I put it in a shed at my mum and dad's house, and it was ace because I could spend hours and hours a day learning how to make bowls and mugs and pots, and all I had was the swallows for company. We're putting on a music festival at my mum and dad's house called Bingo Fest.
I'm Lucy, I'm 26. I grew up in Caton, which is a small village just outside of Lancaster.
I'm Alex, I'm 25 and I grew up in Arnside. The north has an identity which you can hold on to, and when I moved down south I created my own northern identity, and now when I go back, you know, it's made it a lot more powerful and I can feel much more part of something. Now I called myself a northerner, which I didn't do beforehand.
I just love being around nature. I think I realise moving away from that, you realise you have such a privilege growing up surrounded by nature, because I just thought every child could climb trees and saw cows and sheep every day and woke up to those sounds, and then you move away and you're like, people don't have that, that's not natural. And I think looking back on my childhood, I'm so grateful that I did have that and that I could just run out and straight away be running through a field and running in nature. It's just that being so close to that is really important, and also just a sense of community. I think coming from such a small city or town, you know people, and it's really nice to know people.
I'm Emily, I'm 16 and I'm in Clapham by the lake. There's a lot of green, just everywhere you look. There's green fields, green trees, and a lot of mountains, which I always think the scenery is very important. I do a lot of swimming. I'm a fell runner, but not a very good one, but it's taking part. A bit of horse riding, archery, scouts, explorer scouts, caving, walking, and I'd like to do lots of arts and crafts. So I made my prom dress these past 2 weeks, which was quite fun. I don't think I ever would have got involved in caving if I'd lived in the city, but here I'm an active caver. And it's also nice that we've got the beck, because if it's really hot, you can just go swimming, just whenever. I went on a run and it was very hot, it was a really bad run, but I got home and I was boiling, and I just texted my friend, I was like, do you want to go swimming? She was like, yeah, okay. So we just went, and it was actually very cold, but it was still good. We've done that a lot, coming home from school. You're just on the bus, in the car, it's really warm. You're just yeah, we'll go swimming. And you just go.
The community, the location, and just the whole place. It's just so nice. I'll definitely be coming back if I go to uni, local visits. Very lucky, that's one of my words, lucky. This tree in particular, there used to be a big branch and we would all climb up it. And then the more complex tree was that one, so when you got a bit more advanced you could go up the big oak. So yeah, start on the conker tree and then you could make your way up. So Kitty, I'm 18 and we're in Newby right now. I climb quite a lot and I used to climb for Great Britain. It started when I was about 12. I got into climbing because my dad and my mum used to climb, but I did a little competition and I got quite competitive about it, so I started taking it seriously. But living in this area, it's just the amount of rock that's about. There's local crags like Malham and Kilnsey, and they're literally known across the country for being good climbing spots. So I'm very lucky to have got into the sport because it's taken me all over the world, and some of the best climbing is just on our doorstep.
So I grew up on the Solway coast in North Cumbria in a very small village. I'm Melissa Davis. I am a poet and a freelance writer. Yeah, I feel excited to be a mum in this area. I know exactly the first place that I'm going to take the baby once it's old enough to go up fells, and that's going to be up Great Gable, which is my favourite mountain in the Lake District. It's a completely unique round shape, which is why I love it, and it feels so far away from everyday life, and you're just on top of Great Gable and it's freezing and it's always windy and it's just perfect.
So my name is Hannah Hodgson. I write about, so I've got a life-limiting illness, I write about disability, and I also write about hospice, trying to say it's not a scary thing. There's quite a lot of steps around here, so I get quite a lot of poems from weird access things. I think places are aware that, you know, it's not an excuse to be rural and not have access. It's just nice that people recognise that things need to change and that they are.
So I'm Sarah Smout. I'm a cellist and I write songs rooted in nature and landscape. The whole of the Dales landscape is really special to me because I've spent so much of my life exploring it, and it's spurred me on to want to visit other rural places and explore that connection between humans and the landscape, and how we've used it and abused it and how we care for it, and you know, what we can learn from past mistakes, and trying to create the best possible environment for the future.
If a farmer, like a sheep farmer, heard me saying them, he'd be like, oh, she's not saying them right. This is counting to 10 in the Cumbrian language for counting sheep. Yan, tan, tethera, methera, pimp, sethera, lethera, hovera, dovera, dick.
The sheepdogs are a big part of a shepherd's career, and I've had Bet for 3 years now, and she had a litter of puppies unexpectedly, but never mind. So I kept one of those pups, and hopefully it will be able to take Bet's place in due course. She's still a long way to go yet. She knows nothing sensible. She's been taught nothing useful, and it's not a sensible dog yet, but hopefully she'll come through and be as good as Bet was. Yeah, well, in summer, when you're making hay, you have to bale sunshine. And what that means is that you can get your hay as close to hay as you can, but if it's overcast on the day, it just doesn't make good hay when you bale it. It's got to have the sun on it. And then, in winter, when you're opening it up on a frosty, cold day, or maybe when the rain's driving right at your face, you open that bale and it just smells the same as it did when you sealed it up. You can smell the sunshine that you baled.
Thank you to Juliet, who's joining me now, for making such a beautiful film. I have watched that quite a few times now, and absolutely every time I can just watch it over and over, basically. It's just, I find it so calming. And well, I watched it earlier on thinking, right, I need to think of some questions that I want to ask Juliet. And it basically just turned into a list of things that I love about that film. So, so I could sit here and just read that to you if you like.
Thank you.
Because I just feel like, especially, I think Ava said it in the chat, it's just like, it is captured so beautifully, and those stories of the people, they're just so open and honest with you, and they completely trust you. How many of them did you actually know before you started filming?
Yeah, not that many.
Yeah.
I knew of them, and then I met some people through because they're my neighbours, or I was on a walk. But it was never like pinpointing somebody, in the lane, being like, I'm going to now film you and I want to know your story. It was very much like a conversation. I'm doing this project. What are your thoughts about growing up in the area? What's your childhood like in the area? And after that conversation, I then developed with some of them really like long, good standing friendships, relationships, and have checked in with them after the film and taken their portraits, and very organic.
Yeah, well, you mentioned like taking portraits, because that was kind of, you did that alongside, didn't you? Tell us a bit more about that, because you've had quite a bit of success, haven't you, with your portrait?
Yeah, when I began the project, I was doing a lot of research in the area and going on lots of different walks, and I came across a traveller called Paddy, and I photographed him on his way to Appleby Fair, and this photograph was shortlisted for the Portrait of Humanity with the British Journal of Photography, which was a really exciting accolade. And then after filming the project, a portrait I took of William, the farmer, the shepherd, that portrait was then selected as a Portrait of Britain winner 2020 with the British Journal of Photography, which was, very, very exciting for me and for William and for Jill, the puppy. I was also in the portrait with him,
I wonder if Jill's learned anything useful yet.
The other day I saw her catch some sheep, not catch them, but herd them very beautifully. So she's restored beautifully. Yeah.
Good. Well, because you kind of say as you met the people and kind of got to know them and everything, so it sounds like it kind of formed quite organically. But how much of a plan did you have beforehand in terms of the narrative, or like did it end up being similar to what you had in mind? Or because I know it's part of a bigger project, kind of, isn't it? It's a lead on from another project you did.
Yeah, so I began doing a lot of research, and I did a project called Landscape of Teenagers when I was at university, and I was doing a lot of research in youth and the fleetingness of youth, driven from my own experiences of feeling like I was prematurely leaving youth as a result of grief that was happening in my family. So I was really exploring, what is it like to be young today? How does it feel for different people? And when I moved back home to Yorkshire, I was like, I want to know what it's like to grow up here, because I moved up here when I was like 17. And then as I was sort of living in the area, I began to sort of realise that I had an unbiased view, like I had no predetermined ideas of what I would find. So when I met with people, interviewed them, kind of it just so happened that there was quite a trend of almost like a utopian realization of, actually I do love where I live, and obviously rurality and living here has its challenges, no question, but the biggest reflections were positive and all loving and really quite like reflective. I felt like everybody gave me a bit of their soul, and I was really patient, and I felt quite sentimental and sensitive to record these stories, and everybody volunteered a lot of soul. So
it's just so beautiful, and congratulations on your awards things and on your success with the portraits. As you can tell, I could chat about this film all night, but unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but we're going to move on and watch some others. But thank you, Juliet. So next we are going to watch a short trailer of a documentary called The Routes to Paradise, made by Thomas Gardner. thanks for joining us, Tom. We've not met before. Do you want me to call you Tom or Thomas?
Whichever you feel more comfortable saying, really.
So, as I said, that is just a trailer of a much longer documentary that you made. So tell us a bit about the documentary and how you actually came to be making it. Is it a long-term thing, or?
Well, it all started from when I was at school, because Trevor Avery, who is the director of the Lake District Holocaust Project, he would come in with a survivor who was one of the 300 children who came over from the Czech Republic, and they would do a talk every year at school, and I was sort of fascinated by it because I'd never met a Holocaust survivor before, and I think I was about maybe 14, and I'd read his book and I was really interested in history and I wanted to get to know a bit more about it. So then I started speaking with Trevor, and then we started developing like a working relationship and stuff. And then when I went to university, I sort of lost contact with him. And then when I'd finished university, he came to me with the idea of doing a documentary about a proposed dig that was going to be happening at my old school, because that's the location of where the Calgarth estate was. And it was basically an old sort of like housing area for where the workers of the flying boats would live. And then when they had left, it was all vacant. There were 300 spots, and there were 300 children coming over from Theresienstadt, where they were liberated from. And they stayed there for about 2 or 3 months. And I think Trevor wanted to sort of see if they could sort of find anything that was in relation to the children, because he's got the exhibition up at Windermere Library. And then over the course of about 6 or 7 months, we started planning the film and speaking with people, and then we ended up spending about 2 weeks doing the dig, and I think it was just incredible. It really was. I wasn't expecting to do a project like that ever, really.
Yeah. So did you have quite an interest in archaeology and things before? So obviously you'd got a bit of the history and stuff, or was that a bit of a new experience for you as well?
Yeah, because I originally wanted to do history at university, and then I ended up changing and doing theatre instead. So it was a big change, but I always sort of had the history in my mind, and I always wanted to sort of continue with it somehow. And then when Trevor came to me with the idea of doing this, I thought, oh, it's perfect, filmmaking and history. I mean, what more could you ask for, really?
Yeah, perfect. And so has it always been for you that you're more interested in like the documentary side of things than any other type of film, or what kind of stuff
I mean, I've always wanted to do sort of short films, but documentary sort of really stood out for me because you're focusing on something which is real, and you're focusing on the facts and trying to get them right and trying to portray it in a way which people can, they're not going to get bored for 30 to 60 minutes. And I just love learning about people and learning about the past, and especially some of the stories that the survivors were saying in the documentary. It's something that would have stick me forever, really.
Yeah, and really getting to know those kind of the real stories and those characters that, especially when you're talking about history, they can become a bit kind of mythical, can't they? So yeah, it's really good to kind of hear from them directly. So I think I heard in the documentary itself that some of the people involved with it actually went to Auschwitz. You weren't one of those, were you?
Yeah, so me and the camera operator Dylan, we flew to Auschwitz, and I'm petrified of flying. I mean, I don't like getting on a plane to start with. And we ended up going over, and we went and we filmed in the actual the Auschwitz-Birkenau, in the biggest camp, which we all know about. And going there, you really aren't prepared for when you get there, because you can see as many videos as you like and as many pictures as you like, but as soon as you see that dome in the distance at the end of the road, then you just sort of freeze and you don't exactly know what you're looking at. And we spent about 4 hours. It took us around 4 hours to get around the whole camp, and by the time we were finished, we were the only ones in there, and it was about 8 o'clock at night, and it was really cold, and there was like a low mist over it. It just felt really creepy. And it's definitely something which I'd recommend people going to see, because like I said, I mean, you can look at all the videos and pictures you want, but until you actually go there and experience it, then I just don't think you get the full experience, really, of what it's like.
I imagine that would stay with you for the rest of your life, really. Amazing. Really good experience, though, I'm sure. So tell me about kind of the name of the films, because it's called Route to Paradise, the documentary is. So what's the background to that? Where did that name come from?
So that name, we were struggling for a name for about 2 or 3 months, and it came from a quote from one of the survivors, who basically said that the route that they took from Theresienstadt, from Carlisle to Windermere, he called it the Paradise Route, and that was also on one of the leaflets by the Lake District Holocaust Project, based on that quote. And I thought that sort of had a nice ring to it, because I couldn't think of a name, and I'm always struggling to name a film, because it's what you need to sell it, really. And that name just sort of had a nice little thing to it. So I thought I'll suggest it to Trevor and see what he says, and he really liked it. And I think it kind of sums up the film, really, from coming from what they've been through to somewhere which they considered paradise. I thought really worked.
Yeah, no, I kind of think it, having seen the documentary as a whole, I think it does definitely kind of fits in really nicely, that you've got that kind of hope, isn't it? And kind of the opening to a new life for them. That's really good. Well, I'm afraid I'll have to watch the next film now. But as I've said with all the other guests, we are going to be asking questions later. So yeah, keep putting them in that chat box, and I will be chatting to Tom later. But great to speak to you. We are going to go to our next film, and it's a shortened version of a longer film called Forge the Future, which was created over the last few months. And it's been made by a group of young people in Cumbria, basically expressing their experience of lockdown.
March 2020. I'm confused. The world is confused. It's like we've started down a dark road with no headlights and no map to guide us.
Central China, a man has died following an outbreak of an unknown pneumonia-like virus, which officials say comes from the same family as the deadly SARS virus.
We can confirm that 2 patients in England who are members of the same family have tested positive for coronavirus. Patients.
I'm sorry, love. She's gone.
May 2020. It could be March, it could be April. Never mind a map. The compass is spinning out of control and we don't know where we are heading. I miss my friends. I miss the certainty in living, the certainty in life.
I just want everything to go back to normal.
A false sense of security. We have been let out. Dropping onto the grass, remembering the sensation of the outdoors. Hearing the birds. Feeling the cool wind on our skin once again.
What would you do if you were on your way to Tesco to buy a cabbage, and there on the pavement you just saw one? But I'm talking like a walking, talking cabbage with hair and glasses. What would you do? Hey!
You can bring your hands wherever is comfortable for you here. Is love truly forever?
Do you remember what that feels like? To be happy? I'm so tired. You look tired. When did you last rest? I didn't think living would be this draining. This soul-sucking, this giant mess of people and life. It's not fair. I don't want this.
September 2020. All systems go. Sparks of productivity have begun to return. The motivation seems to be rising. I hope this will continue.
November 2020. Here we go again. Our lives are once more restricted by the shackles of this virus.
So, I'm having a bit of lack of motivation. My brain cells are just non-existent at this point. I kind of don't think I'm gonna finish the song.
Christmas was fine. Boxing Day I left a bruise. But 'tis the season to be jolly, I suppose.
January 2021. 1st of January. Cried. 31st January. Cried. This is not fine. This is hard, like really, really hard.
It's okay not to be fine. There's no shame in it. You aren't weak or broken or worthless. You aren't damaged. You're amazing and you're special and you deserve to be okay.
All I know is one thing. In this pandemic, whether it's a trick or not, a blind, meaningless hope, or a passion that we should nurture, all we can do is keep moving forward.
Bursts of sunlight piercing through the clouds.
The pandemic has shown that the world is truly a beautiful place.
Blue skies are coming, everyone.
I'm a bit nervous about what's next. I don't know what it will entail.
I'm uncertain about my mental health journey, but in this moment I feel hopeful.
I'm just thinking about the future and all the plans I have.
I'm unsure, but strangely positive.
I will try out everything I've learned.
I got into drama school.
I might actually live my dream.
I have a new passion for learning.
I will be able to handle it.
I don't know what my future holds, or who I'll be.
But I know it will be an adventure.
Wow, that's what I've got to say about that. It's just such an impactful film, and I've watched the full length one as well. And when I did watch it, especially the first time, it made me cry at one point. It is just such a good kind of representation of how we've all felt, I think, over at some point during the last year. And you know, it just so depicts so well how people have felt helpless and frustrated, and that it's been a really confusing time, but also I think it shows how resilient young people have been and how people have coped, and also actually how much people have managed to still achieve during this time. So for me, it's like such an important piece of work that you've been working on over quite a short period of time, but it is fabulous. Simon and Natalie, like, we've had a bit of an intro from you guys earlier on that film, so to start off with, I'm gonna go to Iona just for you to introduce yourself, because we don't know each other either. But yeah, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got involved with making the film.
Yeah, so I'm Iona. I graduated last year from kind of drama school, university. I'm originally from Cumbria, but I moved to Newcastle to study. I'm an actor, and it's obviously been a really difficult time kind of graduating in July last year, mid-pandemic. So I was kind of just scouring the internet, just trying to find opportunities, and came up, saw the Knotted Project advertising for looking for creatives. And I thought, you know what, this just sounds right up my street. My degree focused a lot on kind of devising theatre. So I was like, I need to get involved in this, and to be involved in something in Cumbria finally, because I'd moved away and I hadn't lived in Cumbria for like 4 years. It was nice to be in Cumbria and creating with Cumbrian creatives, and to have something to be completely creative with and just do kind of whatever I wanted with, really.
Wow, great. And it's good that you've had that kind of creative output during all this time. It's fabulous. So Simon and Natalie, so tell us a bit more about like the background of where the idea for the film came from, and so before that call out that Iona saw, like what was your thinking behind setting up that group of young people?
Well,
go ahead.
We make work. We're a theatre company that make work with and for young people, and basically we were locked down, and we were kind of isolated from all the people that we'd usually get to work with, and we were acutely aware that we were two people with a kind of a company and with a place that we live, and we were finding lockdown really, really tough. And it was basically a response to the pandemic, and it was saying, actually, if we're finding it tough, we couldn't imagine how tough it would be for all the young people that we normally work with and we're in the studio with. So we applied to Arts Council England to fund the project and make it happen. And the initial plan was a theatre performance in a rehearsal room and getting us all in the studio and getting really physical and active. And then we all went into tier 4 and that plan went out the window. And it all went on Zoom, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, I think that was a blessing in disguise, because I think the film came together in such a unique, amazing way in the end. Excuse me. And all the young people filmed it, as you saw, like Iona, like sellotaped her phone to the ceiling. We had like all these amazing creative shots that people were coming up with on their mobile phones. And it felt so much more authentic and in lockdown, and we're in our places that we're all kind of stuck in. And I think the film actually was so much better for that in the end.
Like no one could collaborate in a room in the same way. So instead, everyone was kind of tasked, Iona will tell you about this, everyone was tasked with the kind of solo challenge of like, tell your story of lockdown, like try and capture the essence of it with your mobile phone, which is such a challenge. But I think in doing that, what came through, as you suggested, Manon, was like a really kind of broad like range of experiences over the past year or so. And it kind of told a few different stories, and those kind of weird times where you've been like writing a cabbage song and you're thinking, what on earth am I doing with my life? And then other bits where, the weight of the situation has hit home. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, I think we had one shared experience, didn't we? And then we all had our own little collective kind of moments. And I think, I think the film shows that really, really well.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. And for you and Iona, did you know anybody else that was involved with actually creating it, or were they all new people to you?
I knew of one or two people, but a lot of them I never met and still haven't met to this day. We all knew each other over tiny little screens, but it was so interesting, the connection that we made, I think, just through talking through all the experiences we've had over the last year, and you know, some really difficult topics and stuff. It's amazing how much of a kind of almost like support network that was created through that, despite never actually meeting face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the networks, like through lockdown and things. Definitely just kind of still having, there's a lot of people that I've worked with now that I've not met, but actually it's still having those connections and those networks that are so important to provide that support. Thank you, three, for speaking with me. I'm actually going to bring everybody else in now so that we can start the Q&A session. So, Tom, I'll come to you first, actually. So we just saw that very short trailer. If people want to see the whole thing and get the full story of what happened, where can they go to actually watch your film?
So the full film is on YouTube. It's just Route to Paradise. That's all it is, really. Yes, just full things on YouTube.
And Simon and Natalie, I suppose I could ask you the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Full film is about 45 minutes long, and that's on our website, notaproject.co.uk, or you can watch it on Vimeo as well.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Maybe we could put those, if there's any links that we need to share, then maybe we could put those in chat at some point as well. That'd be really useful. So just kind of thinking more about kind of the different methods that you've all used, because obviously one of the films that we watched tonight kind of stands out in terms of the actual mechanics behind actually creating it, and that was use of the rural north. Just because, Juliet, can you tell us a bit about the technique that you used? And I'm just wondering whether anybody else has ever used or experimented with that type of filmmaking. Is it right that it's 8mm film that you used?
Yeah, exactly. I just used an old 8mm film camera, which is it's just film, and it's sort of a point and shoot. So everything that you see is everything I recorded. There was no more or no less, and it's a direct copy of what I'm seeing. The reason why I decided to use film and not a digital medium is that at the time I was researching into lots of British archive films, and these are sort of like government infomercial films, and a lot of those, if you go as far back as like the 40s and 50s, a lot of those are shot on point and shoot sort of 8mm home movie cameras, and the landscape, some parts of the landscape in the area have not changed in all that time. So I wanted to kind of create an archival piece that it's hard to differentiate whether that was taken yesterday or 40 years ago, and it kind of echoes the themes of transition, change, and also history, heritage, and things staying the same.
So we have had some questions through on chat, so I will get through these and get as many as we can done in the next few minutes. So we have a question for Juliet. So your film has been featured in quite a few festivals. How does that come about? How do you actually get your film shown in different festivals?
Yeah, in different ways. You have to submit to the film festival, and it has to be selected and considered. And that's how I have done it this time. The Kendal Mountain Festival, I had to submit it to them, and it just so happened that that is a really well-known festival where some of the film is filmed. How many times can I say film? And really prestigious festival, so really lucky that they considered it. And it's also showing at Hinterland's Rural Film Festival, which is coming up in May. So again, really lucky that they accepted it. So that's, you have to submit it, and it's quite a process, and you have to get your things together to do that.
Awesome, thank you. That's really useful to know for anybody that's kind of got any in the future, anything that they'd like to get at a festival. We've had another question through. So film is clearly a great way to express ourselves creatively and accessibly, and is accessible. Can we get more schools and education providers to share more learning and content through the medium of film? And do you think this is changing anyway with the need for more digital connections? Does anybody want to respond to that one?
I would say that I think it's a really accessible way to learn, and I think if definitely lockdown has been something to note, that we have all worked and had to work really well on our computers and through this kind of medium. So there's been so much translatable, accessible learning through screens. So by film as an extension of that, I definitely think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I think young people now are learning through film, like you say, but also like social media and just being so present online all the time that, you know, film is one of the best ways to communicate, and quick as well. So we see it and it's easily fed to us, and it's really accessible for lots of people. We can caption it, we can make sure that it is for everyone. So yeah, I think definitely
during lockdown we've been challenged, like with the physical theatre art form, like how do you do physical theatre in your spare bedroom? And it's been film's been a massive part of it. So we've done so much pre-recorded kind of workshop programs that have gone out to like schools and hundreds of children across Lancashire on like a big project, and loads of kind of regular clubs and things like that have all kept going through using film. So yeah, I think it's really powerful, and it helps kind of lift stuff off the page as well. It's so much better than an email. So this is kind of a film format. I know it's not creative in this sense, but there's something about seeing faces and people which just is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's it's definitely something to kind of keep and experiment with more, I think. So got one more question, I think, and then I will ask you one final question, which I'm sure you know what it is already. So recently had, this is from Karen, so recently had a conversation with Yorkshire Film Archive, and they said that they struggle to get contemporary content from young people. These films seem to be great contemporary record, wondering if any of you have considered adding them to the film archive. How does that sound to anybody? Especially Tom, I think yours is a great one to have as well. Well, obviously, and Iona, what would you think of having your film included in an archive with Yorkshire Film Archive, even though you're in Cumbria, but I'm sure they'd still accept it.
I mean, yeah, definitely. We spoke a lot about it almost being the film being like a time capsule, just either for us to look back on or future generations to see, you know, how life was during COVID and how it affected us. So I think that would be a really interesting thing to do, and it definitely resonates with what we wanted the film to end up being. So yeah, definitely.
Perfect. I'm sure there's a Cumbrian film archive somewhere as well, don't worry about it. Giuseppe and Matt, I know obviously you've got so much kind of footage, as you were saying, of all those different diverse people that you meet all the time, and it must be something Yorkshire based that you could share with the archive. I'm sure that would go down very well with them.
Yeah, we actually worked with the Yorkshire Film Archive recently. I believe that was correct, wasn't it, Giuseppe? They worked with us.
on the we made a documentary about the restoration of the Ingleborough Summit Shelter, and we had some we got access from the Yorkshire Film Archive to some wonderful archive footage from 1954, I think, the original building of the shelter, but which is really good, really interesting. Definitely be up for working with them again. But yeah, definitely, I think as well. I mean, since the film you saw tonight was, I mean, I think we put that together maybe even about 2 years ago potentially. So since then, you know, we've worked with loads of different creatives and different people in the area that you know that you haven't seen in that film. So we've definitely got a sort of archive of our own going on, which I'm sure we could definitely contribute to.
That's fab. You've already worked with them.
Yeah, they were pretty. Yeah, they were talking about like Ingleborough and Juliet. You saying that it hasn't changed much. Seeing the sort of film that they did in 1954 and seeing your footage, how similar that is, and kind of the tone, and it's just the same mountain. You know, it's exactly the same. It's quite stunning, really. So yeah.
Well, that leads me beautifully into my final question to you all. So the overarching question that we've been asking yesterday and today with the GPLD live event is the future rural? So I'd really love to hear from you guys, from your perspective of as capturing that rurality in a lot of your work and the communities and people that live in these rural places. From your point of view, do you think the future is rural? Who would like to pick that up first? I was going to come to you, Simon, because I was like, you've asked that enough, so let's go.
Yeah. I hosted one of the events this morning, so I put this question to people a lot, so I've been kind of pondering it. And yeah, I think for me, the future can be rural if you want it to be. I think if it's the life that you want, it absolutely can be. I think we've been running the company here with Kendal as our base for about 8 years, and I can certainly feel a shift in the kind of attitude locally, and like it's almost like there's a momentum and there's like a kind of an energy to everybody here, and yeah, I think that's really exciting. So I think if it carries on like that, and if people want to make things happen in their area and bring things to this space as well, I think the future can be rural.
Fab, thank you. Natalie, do you feel the same?
Yeah, 100%.
Is it a royal we?
Royal we agrees. Yeah, I think the last year has shown us you really can live anywhere, and you can do the career and kind of be creative wherever you want to be. And I think a lot of people live because of their work, but actually live where you want to live, and you can make a life and be creative anywhere, in my opinion. So for us, definitely the future is rural.
Fab. Iona, I'll come to you next.
I really hope so. I was living in Cumbria and then moved away to a city to study, and I felt like at the time when I was 18, Cumbria wasn't really the place for me to be kind of an emerging actor. But having lived back in Cumbria for the last year, I definitely feel, as Simon and Natalie said, there's been a shift in the last year that things are starting to move a bit better. And I think the last year has kind of given people and creatives time to realise what is going on in this area. And a lot of my actor friends are from rural areas and felt like they've had to move to cities, but there is such a wealth of talent and creativeness in rural areas. And I think, as again Natalie and Simon said, we've created this project in a rural area, and it's been incredible. And I think there is definitely, ways that we can definitely do it if we really want to. So I really hope so, because I love Cumbria and it's been so nice to be back in the last year. I really loved it, so I hope so.
I hope so too. Good. Tom, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I really hope that it's going to be the future. I mean, I was in the same boat as Iona. I moved away to go to university for 3 years, but then towards my last year, I was just missing home, and I just wanted to come back. And a lot of my friends, they stayed in the cities where they studied, and I was one of the only few that actually came back, because I sort of missed the place. But there's certainly a boom in the last year or so, particularly in Windermere and in the Lake Districts, with tourists, and it's becoming more popular. And I think it's becoming more accessible to people as well. A lot more people are starting to discover there's a lot of hidden treasures in the countryside and in rural local areas. So it's just trying to get it to expand to a wider audience, which is actually starting to. And I hope that in the future that'll grow and grow and grow.
Great, thank you very much. Matt and Giuseppe, I'll come to you both as a as a pair. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in my opinion it's only natural, because there's a lot of stories to be told, a tremendous amount of stories, and not enough representation of those stories. And I think where there are stories, there is creativity. So it's only a matter of time before these stories come to life, and it's kind of our job to do that, all of us. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. It's going to happen, and it is happening. So
yeah, I think Simon made a good point of saying it can be if you want it to be. It's accessible. And I think I remember we interviewed someone in one of the films that you saw tonight, a bit that I can't remember if it was in it or not, but to echo what he or she said, it was something really good. Like there's not. I think there's a bit of a stigma that there's not as many opportunities in rural areas as there are cities, and I don't think that's true. I think that they're harder to find. They can be harder to find. They can be more sparse. Things maybe aren't as obvious, but there's definitely not a lack of opportunity. There's a, quite the opposite. I think there's a, like as Thomas said, there's sort of boom in opportunities at the moment. So I think, yeah, definitely. I think you've just got to potentially look a bit harder than you would in a city, but then I think there's absolutely it's a good thing. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. And last but not least, Juliet, what do you think?
Wow, I think everyone said it, but to echo everything that everyone said, I just feel like attitudes have changed and it's no longer a disadvantage, but maybe now it's more of a national desire to live rurally and to make it work. And I think this year we've proven that rural living, in terms of being isolated, you can do it and you can feel connected, but being, the country is a very small place, and actually when you live in rurality it feels huge and enormous and it's a privilege. So hopefully, I hope the future is rural, continues to be.
Brilliant. Great, thank you all so much for being involved tonight. It's been fantastic to hear all of your stories, but also to talk a bit more about filmmaking and living rurally, and you've all really inspired me, and it's fantastic that we've been able to have this conversation, even though we're running over a bit. So I'd also like to thank all of our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight and for all your questions as well. I just wanted to kind of remind you that every episode of GPLD Live has been recorded, so they will be available to watch on our website in the not too distant future. Also, if film is your type of thing, as Juliet mentioned earlier, we do have Hinterland's International Rural Film Festival taking place in Skipton next month, and that includes a variety of Oscar award-winning films that actually are going to be shown, as well as Youth of the Rural North and the performance from Sarah Smout, who you saw in the first film tonight. So without further ado, I'll just remind you to check out www.lakesandales.org to find out more about the GPLD programme more generally. But to play us out, we have Aerial Songs by Hayden Thorpe, who's a critically acclaimed solo artist and Aerial's artist in residence. It is really mesmerising, so it's a kind of a good vibe to have at this late at night in the end. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for watching and good night.
searing the veins, burning up in blue flame. How the hell do I break this spell when hell is how? We found out all about our savior phantom, Sandy. Love is a reckoning. Quick, baby, the dagger, head on a platter. Phantom, the Sandy. Love is a reckoning. Phantom, the Sandy. Love is a reckoning. We count down the colors of days like a story. We count down the colors of days like a story. We count down the colors of days like a story. We count down the colors of days. When I go looking, blue crow come back. I go looking, cause and effect. We had another way to connect. You'd only kiss me the alphabet. so